Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Good Intentions with Lisa-Tien. That is me. Hopefully the background music isn't too loud. Okay, you know what? First of all, I think I'm seeing what everybody else is saying about my hair, and she cute. She is cute. I had it washed at work today because I had a gap, and Sunny blew it out. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to hit it with a curling iron. And I used the 1.25 inch. It literally does not look curled, right? Because I just lazily, like, half-ass. I don't even do the bottom. Like, I split. Wow, I'm really about to go into the whole story of how I did my hair, which, how do I not? ADHD. So I split the top half up, and then I kind of just do whatever, a few pieces here and there. I literally just twirl it and then put the bottom down, and then I hit my bangs, and then I hit like a couple pieces. So it just looks like there's like a bend if y'all are just listening. But anyway, any fucking way. I'm feeling squirrely. I drank 2 coffees for no reason. So, but I also don't really know like how much caffeine actually is in the coffee, because this is going to be the most ADHD episode because my thoughts are all over the place. Okay, so I usually make a coffee at home, and it's usually like a double shot. Right. But I've been making like a triple shot. So I'll make my coffee with like, I don't even know, like 4 ounces or whatever of the coffee espresso. Maybe it's actually like more, but whatever. Then, so I make it with like my own coffee espresso machine that I got on Amazon, which I don't even know if it's actually whatever. And then I'll make like an extra shot with my roommate's actual espresso whatever thing. Oh my God. Like, I feel very excited to tell all these stories, but as it comes out of my mouth, I'm like, this is very boring. So, I've been addicted to caffeine, is the whole moral of the story. Also, my nails. I forgot to show off my nails last week, or the last couple episodes, but they're giving like 80s, not 80s, like 60s, disco, whatever, out of frame. Here we go. Cute and glittery. Boop. Squirrely. I'm extremely caffeinated, and hopefully I can go to sleep tonight. So yes. I work next door to a Great Harvest, and I think I talked about this in my last episode. I can't remember because I recorded that like quite a while ago. But I've been addicted to their pumpkin chocolate chip muffins. So today I got one. And when I'm over there, and this is the impulsivity part of me, whenever I buy anything, like, I can't just buy one thing. Like, I used to have a pretty bad, not a bad addiction, but anytime Famous Footwear had their buy one, get one half off sale, I couldn't just buy one to get one. I had to buy basically 4. So I would buy 2 and get 2 half off. But now I'm buying like 4 pairs of shoes that I don't really actually need. And a lot of them end up looking the same anyway. Like, I'm buying different shoes of the same style of shoes I already have that I already don't fucking wear. We kicked that addiction, okay? Kicked the Grubhub, kicked the vaping, although I did vape the other day. We'll get back to that. So yes, I'm going into Great Harvest to buy a muffin, and I just had to also get a coffee, even though I already had my quadruple shot coffee that I made at home that I haven't even finished yet, that is still pretty fucking full. But because I'm getting this muffin, I'm like, I also have it to get a coffee. And I don't know how many shots of espresso that they put in that coffee, so I don't know how many shots of espresso I've had today. And as you can tell at the way that I'm speaking and how I'm all over the place, it's a lot. Also, I worked out this morning, so I had some pre workout. And I think my caffeine addiction is happening because I have discovered this new Vietnamese coffee place called Bobo Bites. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this already in the last episode. And their Vietnamese coffee is so fucking good. But like, it is unnecessary. It is unnecessary for me to spend $8 on a coffee when I can just make it at home. Okay, I can get condensed milk and make strong coffee with condensed milk and like froth up some cream and whatever. Like, I can do that, but I don't. I probably, in my head, I'm like, you know what? That's just unnecessary calories. Like, regular coffee, espresso, whatever, with my half and half is fine. But like, the strength of the taste, the thickness, the creaminess, the coffee jellies in it. Like, oh my God, what a fucking treat. I think for the last 3 weeks on my days off after the gym, I go and get a coffee. And this last weekend, I upgraded to a large and I just be chugging it. Anyway, that was 6 minutes of me rambling. Here's me rambling for another fucking 54 minutes because I'll probably be talking for an hour. This weekend was a great weekend. It was Memorial Day weekend. My brother and his family came into town, and that was a huge surprise. I'm always so happy to see them, but especially happy to see my nephew. And this, you guys, I am winning. I am winning. My goal when I went down to visit them on Thanksgiving was for Lincoln, my nephew, to like fall in love with me, right? Maybe not fall in love, but to love me. And I think it worked. So whenever I went down there for actual Thanksgiving Day, my sister-in-law's family was there, like her parents and one of her sisters. So of course my cousin, or Lincoln, my nephew, is around people that he already knows. So like, he wasn't really giving me that time of the day. Giving me time of day. What? Anyway, that's fine. But then the next day, it was just us with his parents. So we kind of just went out to eat and he let me pick him up. I asked him if he would show me his toys and like when we woke up in the morning, and he did. And I felt like we were already bonding like in the car and stuff like that. And I felt like it was good. Like, I was making him laugh. It was fun. And then he was like, oh, do you want to go trick-or-treating with me? And I was like, oh, for Halloween, like next year. And he wasn't even 3 yet at the time. He's 3 now, right? So then whenever we went back down there for his birthday, which was in April, of course, it's like a whole group. He's just gets uncomfortable around a lot of people and also around people that he doesn't know. And so since they live down outside of Houston, we don't see them that often. So every time we do see them, it is a huge group of us because we have all of our cousins and the cousins' kids. And then, adults that he hasn't seen, like my aunt or whatever. So he's always like, I want my dad. Or it usually takes him hours to actually warm up to everyone. And whenever we went down there for his birthday, my brother's friends also came into town. So it was like hella people, right? So he really wasn't as interactive with us. I think he was trying, but whatever. I kind of just let him have his space, let him do him. And so whenever they said they were coming into town, I was like, fuck yeah. And I was just at work, minding my own business, just working. And my sister-in-law texted me and said, we asked Lincoln who he was most excited to see, and his answer was you. And I was like, what? He knows me. He knows who I am. Oh my God. Like, that just like made my heart. So we all met up they came into town unrelated to Memorial Day weekend, but one of my second cousin's birthday. So my cousin's daughter's birthday. And so they came into town for that. So we met at my cousin's apartment, right? And they got there a little later. And yeah, when I went out to the car to say hi, of course, there's already like a group of people, and Lincoln's being shy, like holding up to his dad, like kind of hiding. And I go over and I said, hi. And as he was still shy, like he still peeked up and he like waved. And I was like, yes, I have my in. So I just sat with him all night, just playing. Every time I see him, I buy him stuff. I'm not like bribing him, but in a way, I'm like, here are these toys. Love me, love me. So I bought him a couple Bluey toys, and yeah, we just played, and he like wanted to play with me, and he was open to my other cousin too. But like anytime you get too close, he like runs. He like runs into his parents' arms. Like if you get too close, he'll like play with you and hand you toys and like laugh, but like you can't pick him up yet. And that just takes time, right? And so I was just chilling, hanging out with everybody, hanging out with him mostly. Like I guess I really love kids. And I think after this weekend, I kind of realized that I'm actually really good with kids. I don't think I ever really noticed that, but even my cousin's kid, Penny, I think she just turned 2. Yeah. Like, I love playing with her. And she'll just come up to me and she's all just like smiles. And I love it. I love children. They're so fun. They're so fun and they're so cute. And they're just like full of just pure warmth and joy. And, like, I mean, obviously I'm biased. I especially love my nephew. There are only 2 people in the world who I look at in the way that I look at, if that makes sense. And these 2 people are Lincoln, my nephew, and Martin Garrix. Like, I look at them with just the utmost adoration. Obviously, Martin Garrix, I am in love with him. He is like, you know, #1 DJ in the world, like future love of my life. And then Lincoln. Like when I look at the both of them, it's just like something with their aura, I feel like. And there's just so much like light in their eyes. And when they speak, like their eyes really like light up. And I love them. So anyway, we're on a tangent for 13 minutes now. Everyone knows I'm obsessed with my nephew. And this weekend was winning. So they drove here. They got in on Saturday. We also hung out Sunday at the pool. And that was whenever Lincoln was like really opening up and warming up to everyone. Like he let people hold him, hold his hand, play with him in the pool, like swim him, like twirl him around or whatever, and like play toys with him and stuff. And that was like really sweet. It was nice to actually see him have fun and not be scared. And I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I think he's obsessed with me. I think him and Penny are obsessed with me. Like they love me. Anyway, am I a narcissist? Absolutely. He is my favorite little human. And I feel like, I don't know, I think maybe I also feel really safe with children, because I do notice sometimes if I'm in like an outing or any kind of family get together or whatever, like I always find myself like chilling with the kids, because they're just chill. They're cool. And I, especially with my nephew, and I don't know if it was because I was also smoking, but I just like, I be singing their names, singing little jingles that I'm making up, and I just don't give a fuck if I'm being annoying, if anyone else is listening. Like, I don't even care. It's just like me connecting and being real and raw and just, yeah. Anyway, this is definitely going to be a me yapping video. I am doing this video because I got no-showed at work, so I have extra time. I figured I'd get a recording down on the books. I still have an episode ready to release. What the fuck am I even saying? And also my hair's done, so here we are. I don't need validation, but I really love to hear it. Like, I loved that Ashley let me know that Lincoln's most excited to see me. Also, so Saturday night when we were hanging out, right? I was just saying bye to him. And I was like, I love you, Lincoln. And he's like, I love you. And I was like, oh, I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, you said you love me. And I got to give him a hug, and he did give me a hug, and I was like kissing him up on the cheek, and then he turned around and he gave me a kiss, and I was like, oh, I didn't even have to ask. Like, he will 100% have me wrapped around his finger. No fucking doubt. No doubt. But anyway, I've been listening to a lot of like relationship podcast episodes, and maybe at some point I'll like get to the point of what I'm trying to say, of like any kind of point, but I'm just going to continue like yapping, I guess. So tomorrow, you guys, I'm going to approach and talk to my gym crush, because I've noticed him here and there. You know, he usually isn't there. I've never really seen him like every day all the time, but I've just noticed him again, just here and there, like on a weekend or whatever. And obviously he's cute. He catches my eye, clearly. And 2 weeks ago, every day he was there at the same time I was. And the day that I decided I was going to ask him out, okay, well, the reason I didn't ask him out yet was because I was still like, I knew that Hollywood was going to be in, and I already had like too much on my mind, and I was like, I'm just going to wait to see what goes down, if anything goes down after this moment, and whatever happens with that, we can just like move on from that. So on the Saturday that Hollywood was coming in, Saturday, he and I, Gym Crush, were in the same vicinity multiple times throughout the workouts. And I knew I should have just said something right then and there, but I was like, no, I want to wait. Like, I want to get Saturday over and done with, and then tomorrow I will ask him out. Tomorrow came, which is a Sunday, and I'm not going to wake up like any earlier or rush to get there at a certain time to like catch someone, you know, like I'm just not going to do that. And so because it was Sunday, my day off, I didn't have work. I didn't have to like set an alarm to be there early. I was like, I'm just going to come in a little later, like an hour later. And as I was pulling up, actually, I think I already mentioned this in the fucking last video, but yeah, as I pulled up, I see him walking to his car, and I'm like, damn it. I have not seen him a single time after that. Like all last week, I did not see him. However, he was there today. Also, however, I was not prepared today. I thought it was so funny, actually, that both of my gym crushes were there today after I hadn't seen them really at all last week. I was going to bed last night, just like smiling, feeling gratitude, just feeling joy, feeling this sense of like detachment from Hollywood, from Sweet Baby Angel, from Side Piece. Like sometimes I think back to those moments with Side Piece and how I was absolutely like unhingedly obsessed with him for no reason, but we know the reason, right? It was because he's emotionally unavailable. I had low key, it was like a trauma bond, even though like it was literally nothing. Like we had nothing, and he had me in a chokehold. That will never ever happen again. That will never happen again. But anyway, it's just one of those things that I guess you just learn from, and you realize. I mean, I think I realized pretty soon what it was and what it wasn't, and I just actively chose to like delve into the delulu-ness because I was bored or whatever. But yeah, so the last few days I've been sleeping through my alarm, and I slept through my alarm this morning. I've just been like going to bed late, I guess. And I forgot that I didn't have a 9 a.m. my first client was at 10. So I was like, oh, I can still go to the gym. And so I did. I've just, all that was on my mind was making sure I go in, get my full workout sesh, try not to be late. Like, let's just go. I didn't have it in my head or mentally prepare myself to see any of the gym crushes there. So that's why I was like, you know what? I'm not going to ask him out today. But I think that if I had seen him by himself, then I would have gone up to him. He was just walking on the treadmill with a friend who also works out there. And I was just like, I'm not ready. Like, I'm just not. Like, I'm just trying to get my workout in today. And yeah, he's talking to someone else. I don't have time to like mentally prepare myself to have an audience, to have someone be there and watch as I approach. But now I am prepared for that tomorrow. So even if he was with a group of people or with friends, I am okay with going up to him, and I'm going to. And he better fucking be there. Because it is a practice. It is a practice. Like, whenever I tell people that I like approached Hollywood or told him that I thought he was handsome or whatever, like everyone's like, oh my God, that's so bold, that I could never do that. And I'm like, you just have to consciously shift your mindset. Like, it's constant work in my mind. You can do this. You can do this. You're a baddie. You can do this. You're so amazing. Like I was telling myself, it would be crazy for him to say no, for him to reject me. And if he did, then you know what? He just wasn't meant for me. And I will say this till the day I die. Rejection is a positive thing. It reroutes you towards what is meant for you. Rejection doesn't mean that you're not worthy. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It just means that isn't for you. And now you have the space and clarity and time to go towards something else that is going to be meant for you. That's how I see it. And that's how it is. Facts. Like, that is how it is. Rejection is a good thing. You cannot allow it to affect your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. You know what I mean? Like, continue to just know who you are and be so fucking damn sure of who you are. I had an appointment with my psychiatrist yesterday, and I think it's been like 4 months. And so we were just like catching up, and he kind of gave me a little bit of a therapy sesh regarding relationships, because he asked me how my personal life was. And I was like, well, I'm not really dating at the moment, but I feel like I'm ready. Like, I kind of just told him this last year. I wanted to focus on myself and really figure out what it is that I want in a partner, what values I want or that I have, and what I don't want, and then just truly be there for myself and not be available for literally anything, because that's how I've been my whole entire life. So he kind of was just going off of a list of things he feels that I am, which were positive. He's like, you're very good at you communicating. I think you're emotionally intelligent. You're this, you're that, you're good looking. I'm wondering what happened to where you were in a relationship like that with my ex-husband. And it is truly like, I am not even the same person, like, at all, by any means. Who I am today and who I was in that relationship, like, I'm still baffled a lot of the times. I forget what thought I had earlier today, literally just moments before I started filming. I was walking up to the fridge, and I think it was just like me being mind blown that happened, that I ever thought any less of who I am. And that thought came up was because one of my clients was in today, and she had booked with someone else because I didn't have time. or availability, and she was like, oh, how was your trip, blah blah blah. We were talking about like my nephew and how they came into town this weekend, and I just absolutely adore him, and how he was like excited to see me and blah blah blah. And she and Cassie, one of the girls that I work with, were like, no, I bet you're really good with kids, and just saying like really nice validating things, and I love to hear it. Like, it makes me feel really good. Like, if I'm out at a show and I'm vibing and someone's like, I love your vibe, I love to hear it. I absolutely love to hear it. I don't think I necessarily need it, but it means so much to me when someone does recognize that, because that is truly how I feel about myself. And what I'm most excited for is to attract a partner that sees all of what I see about me, and is in love and just in awe of at like who I am and my character and stuff like that. So like me thinking about all of that, all of the positive of what I am, and it truly is so baffling that I was in a relationship with someone who did not value me, right? Who did not respect me, who criticized me and put me down. And the intention of doing that was so that I would doubt myself, so that I never leave, so that I don't feel good enough to have a partner that would quote unquote treat me better than him, because the way that he's treating me is the best that I'm gonna get, and he's like doing everything possible to treat me in his view the best way, because no one else, and this is I quote, he quote, no one else would put up with what he has to put up with. And it is insane. It is insane that someone would say that to someone that they love. And it is also insane that I just like believed it. You know what I mean? Like being so lost and being so confused on how you feel about your own self, to a point where someone else is telling you how to feel about yourself. And then you believing them over believing yourself. And my psychiatrist even said that, that is someone with like low self-esteem. So he is wondering how it came to be that way for me when he listed off all of these things about myself that were positive. And I think it was just like, I was like, I've always had pick me energy, always like validation seeking, which I didn't realize that I did until he brought it up last year. And I forget if he knew about, I think he does know about, I'm pretty sure I told him about my history of sexual abuse, childhood sexual abuse. And one thing I did say was like, I feel like I generally don't tolerate being criticized. But I think with him, I tolerated it because he kind of like reminded me of my mom. Like there were things about him that reminded me of my mom. The hot and cold, the explosiveness out of nowhere. And I guess the criticizing too. I don't think my mom did it a lot, but sometimes she would. And like, I just don't think anything of it. Like it's just whatever. I don't let it faze me. But when it's your partner, because like if it's a toxic parent or a sibling or whatever, someone you don't have to interact with every day, you don't hear it every day. You know what I mean? So when it's a partner that you live with, that is supposed to love you, that you love, and they're telling you that over and over and over and over again, and you don't leave when you're there, you just start to believe them because you hear it all the time. And that to me is just so wild. Like sometimes I'm still so mind blown, But like now I know who the fuck I am. And I think that is chef's kiss. I think that is top tier. I think that is just like, I feel like you've made it. Like, there is really nothing that can bring you down when you love yourself fully and you admire who you are and you recognize the flaws that you do have, and you put in the efforts to grow and to be the best version of yourself. I feel like that is winning, because you're conscious, because you're awake, because you're not just living subconsciously. You're not sleeping. You're not like just letting the days go by and like feeling things and not really understanding where they're coming from. And you're literally living. You are living and you are taking action to fulfill your life. That is what living is. Loving yourself, recognizing your value, not accepting anything less. That changes your dynamics within relationships, like, period, within any kind of relationship, whether it's friendship, an intimate relationship, family. You're not so easily swayed. You're not second guessing yourself. You're able to meet people where they are. You're able to listen if someone does have something to say that you might perceive as negative about you, but you're able to sit there and hear what they have to say, validate them on how they feel, but at the same time not take it like personally, like an attack. That's how you resolve conflict or disagreement, is when something you did or said hurts someone else's feelings and they're able to express that to you without you dismissing them, without you deflecting, without you turning the blame on them. You're able to listen and understand where they're coming from. And and not take it personal. Because when you take it personal, when you get triggered, that's your own trauma. That's your own inner child. And when the inner child is reacting, or when the inner child, is making the decisions or making the response, the decision and the response is not a mature choice or response, because it's coming from your inner child. It's not coming from the 30-year-old you. It's coming from that 7-year-old, that 6-year-old that is afraid and doesn't know how to communicate really and is scared. So the other person isn't going to feel heard, and your feelings are also going to be hurt, right? So like both people are hurt. Both people, there is no conflict resolution. So then what? Then you just act like it didn't happen and then you move on. But then there's always this little seed of like, I can't talk to this person. So how am I supposed to express my feelings? Oh, well, maybe I'll just get over it. I don't know. So the podcast episodes that I've been listening to, and I really should make a habit of like writing down these people's names, but I've listened to a few episodes of, I think her name is Sadia, and I think she's a psychologist. She also does like one-on-one coaching, but I think she also mostly works with men who have been cheated on. I think a small group of women, but I mean, it's all kind of the same, right? She is very aware of how she was brought up and her flaws. She mentions how it makes her very uncomfortable when people give her compliments, because growing up, she never had that kind of validation from her family. And I think they are from Pakistan. And she said her parents desperately wanted a boy and cried when she was born because she wasn't a boy. And I thought it was so funny that she brought this up, because one of the episodes that I listened to, it was like a debate, and it was on Lewis House's podcast, but it was Matthew Hussey and her. And her view, or what she said, was she doesn't think men should forgive a woman that cheats. And I forget if the specific part was a woman who cheats, who has like a full on affair. I don't think she meant just like a one night stand, like a mistake, but she meant, I don't think men should forgive, but like should not take the woman back after she's had an affair, because her view is a woman having like a full on affair, she's already lost respect for her partner. And what women crave is like masculinity. And she says, based off of her personal experience and the work that she does, that when men forgive the woman cheater, that they will just continue to cheat. One, and two, they lose respect for the men because he forgave her. And so that comes off as weak, and that comes off as less masculine. I thought that was very interesting when she said that, because I was like, I disagree. And I kind of favored with Matthew Hussey's side, and he thought it was crazy to completely generalize. Like, he felt like it was very toxic to put all women in a box like that. So he was arguing against that. He feels like saying that makes a woman appear like she's not capable of, like she's cruel, like she's not capable of gratitude for her partner for forgiving her in the first place. And he also doesn't think that women just cheat because they don't respect their partner. He is arguing that if someone cheats, unless they are like a serial cheater or whatever, or a narcissist or whatever, people, like, let's just say regular people or whatever, cheat because they are not having a need met, whether it's emotional, sexual, whatever. He just thought it was crazy that that if a man cheats and a woman forgives them, the relationship can still, they can still recover from that. But if a woman was the cheater, she has seen that the woman will continue to cheat or stay with that husband that forgave her until she finds someone else and then leaves him anyway. So like, listening to that statement, I was like, that is absolutely, I feel like that's so crazy. I don't agree. And I'm reading the comments, because the debate did get a little heated, and Lewis asked people to comment in the comment section if they're a woman and they have cheated, or if they're a man and they've been cheated on, vice versa, blah, blah, blah. And I was reading the comments, and a lot of people agreed with Saudi, and I thought that was so insane. And it was a lot of women as well. And some men who said, I did cheat, or my wife, partner, whatever, girlfriend did cheat. I forgave her, and she continued to cheat on me for however long, blah, 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 blah. And I thought that was just wild. I guess I can kind of understand where she's coming from when they kind of got into the specifics of things. She was like, cheating, having like a one night stand cheat is different than if you've had like a whole 6-month affair. That one, you don't respect your partner. I forget the other point that I was trying to make. But I guess her point was for a woman to get to that point, to where they would have like a full on affair where they are continuously lying, that everything's already gone out the window. And so you can't really recover from that. But I thought it was interesting enough to listen to the other podcast where she's on. So going back to how her viewpoint of how men shouldn't forgive or take back a woman who cheated versus if a man cheats and a woman forgives her, that their relationship they can still work through it. Her talking about how her parents cried that she wasn't a boy. I felt like that made so much sense. And she also said that she felt like there was a part of her that did feel like a boy, the way that she was raised or whatever. And I just thought it was interesting, her viewpoint of the men versus women. And maybe it just didn't get communicated well, but Matthew did not agree with that and he argued it. But it makes sense. Reading the comments, it started to make sense. I think there was one comment that said Matthew is possibility and Sadia is probability. And that definitely made sense to me. Because he kept saying women, women, like you're putting women in a box. And she said, not women, women who cheat. Women who cheat, not women. So she stood by her argument, though. I thought that was actually very impressive because they were like going at it. And there was one point where she said, have you worked with men who've been cheated on time and time again? And he was like, well, yeah. And I forget the second question that she asked, but he was like, well, I haven't worked with men for, like 6 months or longer to know if they've gotten cheated on again. And I guess that is her niche, is working with men who aren't in their masculine, who don't know how to set a boundary, or maybe they themselves don't have self-esteem to walk away. And I think that's the point of what she was making, is like, if a woman is straight up just having an affair, it's because there's something lacking within the relationship. And then when he forgives her, that just makes her, like, it gives her the ick for some reason, that like he, one, forgave her, but two, also like didn't have the balls to walk away. So then self-esteem issues come into play with that as well. And there was something else that she mentioned. She talked about how like women test men without really like knowing. And Lewis asked her why, and she said it's kind of like evolutionary. She said that women test men to make sure, like if anything happened to them, that they would be able to go on with their children. They want to see the man like push back, which I thought was just very crazy. But I guess that's just not my personality type. But they might, they want them to set a boundary. They want them to be, kind of firm. They want them to be a leader. I thought that was very interesting. But I guess all of this to say, yeah, are we going to talk about cheaters? I think both Sadia and Matthew were like, and in no means are we defending cheating. He was like, I never thought that I would have a conversation where I would be defending cheating. He said cheating is wrong, but he can understand someone, who would choose to forgive, and forgiving does take strength. But yeah, anyway, I think we're just going to circle back. And I think I've talked about this already in many episodes of why it is so important. Oh, something else that she said was, I forget the point of why she was saying it, but something she said was, people go into relationships without knowing the disease that they have, expecting the other partner to help them cure that disease. So she says that referring to a lot of people go into relationships without knowing their own toxic traits. something she says that everyone should ask themselves before going into a relationship is, how are my insecurities going to ruin this relationship? And I can understand why she says we should ask that. I think that it's kind of like a negative question to ask, but it makes sense. So she says you should ask yourself, what are the insecurities that I have that are going to ruin this relationship? And asking that is to be aware of your insecurities that could potentially ruin the relationship, not in a fearful way, but in a way where you know that these are issues that you have, and you know that these are issues that you need to work on and to shift, to grow from. That way you can be healthy in a relationship. Because people don't do that, right? We weren't taught to do that. If we grew up with parents who were emotionally unavailable or whatever, if we were never shown the love that we needed to be shown as children, we don't know that because we weren't modeled that. We will go into a relationship seeking that validation, but inside we're insecure, so therefore, we will have insecure attachment styles. We will show up and become anxious if we're feeling like we aren't getting the needs that we need met, or we will be avoidant or whatever. Not learning and being comfortable with communication because we're afraid of conflict, because we're afraid that we're going to lose this other person, or we're afraid that they're going to yell at us because our parents did, or the way that we respond is out of fear. So being aware that the fear is there, that whatever insecurity that we have, so that we don't expect the other person to fix us. So that's also something else. I guess the second part to what she says is a lot of people come into relationships not knowing the disease that they have, expecting the other person to cure them. But the other person isn't going to know. And it's not the other person's job. It is our job to be aware of our triggers. I don't think we necessarily have to know where it's coming from. I think it's helpful to the situation, helpful to understand where it's coming from, but just the fact that we're aware that it's there, that way we can change it. You know what I mean? That way we can grow, we can be better, we can learn how to react differently. That way it doesn't make us uncomfortable to communicate our needs or when we aren't having our needs met. Right? When people ghost, when people cheat, when people do whatever, and I don't want to label it as wrong. I think cheating isn't black and white. But let's just say when people in relationships act out and do something that will hurt their partner, it's because there is something that they don't have the knowledge of. Right? They might not be aware that their needs aren't being met, and they might not even know what those needs are because they never really sat down and thought about it. They just know that there's this feeling that there's this emptiness or something that's lacking, and it might not even be their partner. It might not even be what their partner isn't doing or is doing. It might just be within themselves. So jot that down. You might. And again, I feel like this is why awareness and reflection is so important to do within yourself, to really understand and figure out how you're wired, what you want to change, what you can accept about yourself and what you don't like, so that you can grow, so that you can become the type of person that you like. You know what I mean? Because if you don't know yourself, how is your partner supposed to know you? How is your partner supposed to understand how you're feeling, what you're feeling, if you don't know? Number one. And number two, you also don't know how to communicate it because you don't know. So then the relationship really isn't going to work out, because it's not the other person's job, and the other person might make it their job to like fix you or fix the relationship. But that might look like where they're pouring into you, and making sure that you're happy and you're fulfilled. But then your cup never really fills up because you don't really know what the issue is. And their cup is completely draining. So then there's a whole imbalance within the relationship. And again, inevitably, that relationship is going to crumble and it's not going to work because of the imbalance. I think before we get into a relationship, we should really do some self-reflection. Are we even going to make a good partner? And that's not things that look good on paper. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, okay, I have a job and I do this and I do that and I make X amount of money and, you know, exterior things. Like, that's sure, that's all great. But like, emotionally, are you and will you make a good partner? And what even makes a good partner? Are you able to have compassion? Are you able to be empathetic? Do you have patience? Right? Are the little things that they do, is it going to get on your nerves? And how are you going to react if and when it does get on your nerves? What if they do something that hurts your feelings? Are you going to be able to communicate that in a healthy way without attacking them, without emasculating them, without criticizing them? Are you going to be able to receive what they say and listen and hear what they have to say without feeling attacked yourself? Without feeling like shame and guilt and then getting into your own head about it, instead of being able to be present to hear what they have to say and to try to understand how they're feeling. That way you can resolve the conflict and grow and get past that bump in the road and move on and be happier. A lot of us, I feel like, go into relationships because we want to be loved. But are we capable of loving them in a healthy way? Right? We all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. We all want to feel safe. But are we capable of doing that for someone else? And that's the T. This is important stuff. I thought it was so funny. Well, Justin and I were talking this morning about like negativity in the world, and I was kind of confused of the point that he was trying to make because we both have fucking ADHD. But I think the like precipice of the whole story was that there is negative and evil in the world. And I think he mentioned that like he understands that and how he doesn't want to let that perspective like be all that's on his mind or whatever, and that he is becoming aware of that, but how he also wants to help other people be aware of that. And I was just like, you know, there is evil in the world. There is negativity in the world. I'm not completely oblivious to that. I just don't focus on that. And if that makes me ignorant, then that's just what it is. I prefer to focus on the light and the happy, because I do believe that there are amazing humans out there. There absolutely are. Love is real. Good men are out there. I'm not scorned from the past. And where your focus goes, your energy goes, or where your energy goes, your focus goes. Right. So in 2020, I'm pretty sure I already talked about this. Like, I spiraled because I was on Facebook, and of course, it's the pandemic, it's the cops, BLM, the election. Everyone online is angry. The whole Epstein stuff is coming out. The list of the supposed celebrities who have visited the island. These celebrities are people that we all have looked up to, and me having the history of sexual abuse in my childhood, of course, I was extremely triggered, and I was like, how is nobody else talking about this? That's all I kept seeing on my Facebook was stuff about like hashtag Pizzagate, hashtag Save the Children. And my reality became skewed to where I was like, oh my God, this is all I'm seeing. So this is my reality. Where like this is happening everywhere and nobody's talking about it and blah, blah, blah. And because everyone else is so angry on social, I felt like I had to be angry. And it almost like, I want to say the feeling was almost kind of like hateful towards people in the world. And like this feeling of despair, basically. It was just very heavy and negative. And I went out and drank and I drove home and I made it home, but then I backed my car into whatever, this metal stick hanging out of this loading truck. And yeah, I think there was a guy that I was like talking to that he kind of ghosted. And I remember like texting him and being like, why? But first of all, you will never catch me asking a man why. But ew, like that was such like a weird time. And I decided I just had to delete Facebook because one, you don't know what's real and what's not. And two, there's always going to be some shit happening, right? And if you're focusing on the negative and you're focusing on the fear, that's all you're going to see is the negative, and that's all you're going to feel is the fear. And I don't think that's actual reality. I mean, maybe that's actual reality for some, but again, like where your focus goes, your energy flows, or vice versa. And I just don't want to feel that energy. I don't want to be in a negative internet wormhole and feel like this disgust and anger and sadness and oh my God, what has the world come to, and this, that, or whatever, because I don't believe that that's real reality. I believe that we can have the life that we want, and that there are amazing, kind souls, and that life is a gift. And that's what I believe. And I've been happy every fucking day. And if I'm not happy, well, I'm never really not happy. But if I'm feeling low energy, low vibes, then I just accept that I'm feeling low energy, low vibes. And I do what I can to just caress that energy and focus on the gratitude that I have, because life is truly a gift. And you can't feel your highs without feeling your lows. So even appreciating the lows and thanking the lows, because the lows are there so that we can appreciate the highs. Point blank, period. So I think every day is an absolute gift. And I feel like I've gone on a lot of different tangents now. And I think that's all I have. And I feel like this is something that I've already like preached like a million times. And I guess the purpose of this whole episode is asking ourselves if we're actually putting in the work. Like, yes, some of us, something else that Saudi also said, and she's aware that she needs to work on. She mentioned feeling uncomfortable when people give compliments, right? And Lewis was thanking her for being on the podcast and this, that, or whatever, and saying like these nice things. And she's saying that, you know, when you're saying these nice things, I feel like you're lying. Like, I don't really believe that you believe these nice things. And she is a beautiful woman. She is so incredibly intelligent and has so much knowledge in the topic of what she coaches. And I think it is so wild that she still feels insecure in that kind of way. Like, she mentioned she kind of has like imposter syndrome being on the show. But I also appreciate, and I think it is very brave to communicate that, you know, like to say, hey, like, I'm sitting here on this podcast and I've done all of this and I know these things and blah, 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 yet I still feel less than, or I still, you know, she says she feels confident, but her self-esteem is the issue. And I feel like I can kind of relate to that, because there are a lot of times that I do feel confident in like who I am, but the self-esteem, right? So like whenever I say like, I think I'm ready to date, but I don't know, because, and maybe it's the ADHD of going like back and forth, but like, I don't want to like sway on a boundary or a value that I have. And a tiny example is texting Hollywood anyway, even though I said, no, I don't chase. I've already like put myself out there twice. If he actually genuinely wanted to go out, he has my number, he could text me. But then I ended up texting him anyway 2 weeks later. So like, those are the little things where I want to just be like, that ain't it for me, and I'm not changing my mind on it. I don't know if that's like an ADHD thing or like whatever, but that is something like I want to be like so clear with myself on. And maybe I should just like write shit down and be like, well, you said this. Or if I'm starting to feel squirrely, just take my Vyvanse and then really be like, yeah, no. I think it is like an ADHD impulsive thing, whatever. I think Lewis also asked Matthew a question of what he thinks happens when someone hasn't healed from like a cheating relationship or whatever, and then they go straight into another relationship. And I think Matthew says that he thinks it's such an important time for you to really get to know yourself. And I absolutely agree. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this also, like whether it's cheating or whatever, just any kind of breakup, if it's toxic or if it's not, you're gonna go through like this mourning phase of the breakup, right? Depending on the severity of your self-esteem and how you showed up in the relationship, right? It might not take you that long to recover from the relationship, and it might take you recover from the breakup, and then it might take you like a lot longer to recover from the breakup. But he talks about how taking that time to just be alone and really get to know yourself and become that, to find that compassion for yourself. Because I think, and again, they're talking about cheating specifically in this episode, where you might feel like shame or guilt, or maybe you wonder like, what did I do? Or why wasn't I good enough? Or this, that, or whatever. Like those thoughts, of course, can come up. But instead of like living there, finding the compassion for you and maybe trying to understand them, your partner, and why they might have done it and what they might have been lacking within the relationship. Or maybe that's just, how they've always been. Maybe they are a serial cheater. But if they're not, to understand what need within the relationship they were not receiving. Right? And really just basically I don't know if I want to say take yourself out of the equation, but yeah, maybe in a sense where you step outside of, oh, this happened to me, or this was me and him, or whatever, right? Like taking a step outside of the relationship, maybe like looking from the outside in and seeing the relationship, like really seeing the relationship, seeing how you showed up, seeing how they showed up, and what the issue actually was. What need was not being met? Because when you evaluate that, then you can truly see, is it something that I needed to work on, or is it something that they needed to work on? Like what kind of role did I play into this? And I'm not saying that it's anybody's fault. I'm not, it's not anyone's fault. Right? Cheating, I feel like, is a mistake that happens. It is definitely a choice that you make, but there's a reason to it. And evaluating the situation can help you understand whether it's the reason is within them, a lack that they have, an unfulfillment that they personally have within themselves. Or is it, lack of communication, lack of love that they needed, lack of a need that was there. Maybe being present, maybe asking them questions, maybe, seeing them. Maybe they didn't feel seen, maybe they didn't feel heard, maybe they didn't feel connected anymore. And why? I think all of that is very important. Because then when you evaluate all of that, you have a better understanding, you have more knowledge, you learn and you grow, and you can put that into the next relationship. That way, that next relationship can be even better and it can flourish because you have this wisdom now of what to do and what not to do. And if it's a communication problem, then you know that you personally can work on communicating your feelings more. Oh, maybe I'm being a little more reserved because I'm feeling this way, and maybe this and maybe that, and a compromise, and yeah. So I think couples who are open to grow together, like, that's great. And of course you're going to grow together. Well, not of course, but awareness is everything. Awareness is truly everything. Being aware of what you're thinking, being aware of what you're feeling, being aware of where you feel it in your body. You know what I mean? Being aware so that you know. Knowledge is power. Didn't they teach us that in school? Something I really wish they would have taught us in school, because the only way, really, I find that someone can learn how to be in a healthy relationship is when they're modeled that by their parents, when their parents know how to communicate and are emotionally intelligent and available and are able to teach you how to value yourself. that you are more than just your looks or a pretty face or whatever, that you are intelligent and you're this amazing, bright human, and not just accepting someone, you know, like not being so wowed that someone compliments you and tells you that you're beautiful, and that's great. But like, if that's all you are to them, then that's all you ever will be. To expect more, to want more, right? If we weren't taught this as children, when and where do we learn it? And I'll tell you that I didn't learn any of this until like a year ago, after being in a toxic, abusive relationship. And I learned that just from listening to podcasts, buying books that I never read, but I listen to these podcasts, right? And put in the work to grow, right? I was curious to figure out why I wanted to drink all the time and go out and hook up and show up in this kind of way. And in those moments, in that present time, I thought, you know, I was having fun. I thought this, I thought that. And now I'm looking back and it's, you know, I don't want to say it was a cry for help, but it definitely was like validation seeking. Everything that I did was because I so desperately wanted to be loved. And I thought that if I, you know, had sex or did this or did that, then like, oh, then they would love me. Oh, if I'm in this relationship where this person literally already told me, hey, I'm not a good boyfriend, I don't want to be in a relationship, and I bend over backwards because I think that if I did all of this for this person, that they would love me. This person who's 10 years older than me, right? And this, I'm not even referring to my ex-husband. So I thought I learned that lesson, yet I did not, because then I ended up in the relationship that I ended up with my ex-husband, which is basically kind of the same. But that other situationship, you know, he wasn't abusive. And he flat out told me, but I just wanted to be loved. I thought that if I loved this person, that they would love me. And that's just not reality, baby. Like, know your worth. And the only way to know your worth is to get to know yourself and put in the work to like love everything about you. That's when you know your worth, and that's when you raise your self-esteem. Because putting in all that hard work to understand you and to have compassion for that little girl or little boy that wasn't loved in a way that you wanted to be loved when you were a kid, and doing all of that, then you can show up for yourself the way that no one else has, the way that you needed. You can be that person for you. And when you're that person for yourself, holy shit, the type of person that you can be for another healthy human that you want to have a relationship with, or that you do end up with, like that is goals, baby. That is goals as fuck, because I can tell you that is going to be an amazing fucking relationship when you can be that loving person for yourself and you meet someone that can match your freak. Wow. The amount of love in that relationship would be insane. And the amount of love that your kids would have, wow. Like, I really cannot wait for that, because I think it is going to be spectacular. I think whenever this happens for me, it is going to be just like a fairy, and I don't even want to say like a fairy tale, but like, yeah. it's going to be next level. Because you know what? My relationship with my ex-boyfriend, that I feel like, from what I remember, that was a magical relationship because the friendship that we had, I just remember we were always so excited to see each other, and it was great. Living together was great. Like, I didn't really get on his nerves. He didn't get on my nerves. Obviously, our issue was communication, and maybe, believe we both had like insecurities. He started to become more avoidant. I was definitely more anxious. But the fact that I got to experience a love like that when I was a baby, right? And I say a baby as in, like, I didn't put in all of that work yet. So me being evolved to the person that I am now, the possibility of the relationship that I can have is very exciting for me. And I am just, the thought of it is just like, wow, 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 wow. I feel the same excitement for that, for the possibility, the abundance of love that I will have in my next relationship. That same excitement I feel for, like, when I'm about to go to a music festival. It's just like the energy, we're vibrating high, we're dancing, we're loving, we're singing, we're all of the things. Like, that is what I visualize, and that's what I'm going to have. It's already happening. So I'm going to leave that right there. We are at 1 hour and 18 minutes. Now, I don't even think I looked into the camera like a single time since I recorded this. So thank you guys for listening. I love you. See y'all next time. Bye.